Hi, Year 10. This is a recording to help you with task 16 of the Christmas Carol. Okay, we'll start with reading the extract together. The highlighted terms are on a later slide with some definitions for what they mean. We'll come back to those in a minute. "Forgive me if I am not justified in what I ask," said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe, "but I see something strange and not belonging to yourself protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?" "It might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it," was the spirit's sorrowful reply. "Look here." From the foldings of its robe it brought two children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of its garment. "Oh, man, look here! Look down here!" exclaimed the ghost. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meagre, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate, too, in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints, a stale and shriveled hand, like that of old age, had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade through all the mysteries of wonderful creation has monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge started back, appalled. Having them shown to him in this way, he tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves, rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. "Spirit, are they yours?" Scrooge could say no more. "They are man's," said the spirit, looking down upon them, "and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, and all of their degree, but most of all beware this boy. For on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased." "Deny it," cried the spirit, stretching out its hand towards the city. "Slander those who tell it ye. Admit it for your factious purposes, and make it worse, and bide the end." "Have they no refuge or resource?" cried Scrooge. "Are there no prisons?" said the spirit, turning on him for the last time his own words. "Are there no workhouses?" The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and saw it not. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. Okay, to run through some of the definitions then. Quite a lot on this particular extract, but it is a really important extract for your understanding of the book. When he asks if he is justified in asking the question, he hopes he's right to ask, that it's okay to ask the ghost. Protruding from your skirts, I guess it's skirts that could mix us up as a modern reader, but it just means that the foot is sticking out from the bottom of the ghost's robe or cloak that he's wearing. When the ghost replies it might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it, he's telling us that the foot is so thin that it looks like a claw. The children are described with lots of adjectives. Here's 3 of them. Wretched is someone to be pitied in this case. Abject is the state of being extremely unhappy or poor. Frightful, shocking, or extremely unpleasant. Okay, a garment is a piece of clothing. In this case, it's the ghost's robe again. Meagre is small and thin. Prostrate is to lie face down, perhaps in worship, or maybe out of weakness, or maybe just out of humility, as it is in this case. Humility means kind of the opposite of being proud, being so aware of your own bad features that you don't think very much of yourselves. And then he says, where angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. So these children might have been good. They might have angels sat on thrones, literally, but it is working as a metaphor. If their environment was better, these children would have been good people. But because their lives have been so bad, they have become evil and villainous themselves, and threatening, that word menacing there. Appalled, Scrooge is appalled. It means shocked disapproval. Magnitude is size. It's like a lie so big. Ignorance here, it means a lack of understanding and education, particularly of the nicer sides of life, if you like. And want, which is the name of the girl, here means the condition of not having something. The girl represents poverty and hunger. Okay, so it doesn't mean that she wants something in how we might mean it, to wish for something. Okay, it means not having something, or indeed anything in her case. Have they no refuge or resource? We've had that phrase in the book before, but Scrooge, to remind you, is wondering if the children have somewhere safe to go that will look after them. And the phantom is the name of the last ghost. Phantom is just another word for ghost, isn't it? Okay, so let's take you through a few things that should help you answer the 3 questions that are part of this task for your teachers. Okay, question 1. We're looking for the quotations that are the most terrifying. If it were me, I'd look at those that make the children seem like dangerous animals first. This is zoomorphic language, and you can use that term. It means language used about a person which describes them as if they're an animal. And you've got the word claw, the word wolfish, and scowling. Okay, all of these could make them seem dangerous, and claw and wolfish very much so as animals. Okay, secondly, I'd look at those words that directly suggest that we should fear them. So where the narrator or the ghost is telling us, telling Scrooge to be afraid of them. The ghost says, beware them both. Okay, so beware is an imperative, isn't it? It's commanding him. Beware them both and all of their degree, but most of all, beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom unless the writing will be erased. So he repeats the imperative, the command, beware, which tells us we should be afraid of the children and afraid of the doom, the fate, the destruction that will happen to us all, or to Victorian society in this case, unless we change. Okay? Unless society changes so that there are no longer children and generations brought up like this. Okay, for question 2, it asks us why Dickens includes the characters and how he uses them to criticise society. These characters are a social warning to the readers. Dickens aims to make us either ashamed or afraid or both. Children are reduced to poverty, starvation and criminal acts because of the way Victorian society had no welfare state, little sense among the rich that they had to look after those who are worse off than themselves. By using children, Dickens is creating something that's more emotive, more emotional, if you like, and the readers may feel more ashamed of their own actions. Therefore, they're seeing the consequences of their greed, etc. The imperative, again, another word for command, the imperative beware adds a different dimension. Dickens warns his readers that if Victorian society continued to treat a whole section of their society in this way, one day they would rise against them, destroy that society altogether. So he's saying that Victorian society is causing its own destruction unless they change. Question 3. Why is it important for men like Scrooge to see ignorance and want and change the way they treat the poor, weak and vulnerable? Now the answer is kind of in the question, isn't it, really? So Scrooge is a symbol for the whole of rich Victorian Britain. Notice how the ghost refers to the children as mans. They are mans. He refers to Scrooge, doesn't he, and says, and tells him to look at him by addressing him as man. They are products of society's selfishness, greed, and cruelty. If the readers see Scrooge change, This is why it's important for men like Scrooge to change. If the readers see Scrooge change, a character I'm sure they would have seen as worse than they are, then they could surely all change and make the country a fairer place for everyone. Just as these children are a warning to Scrooge about what will happen if he does not change, the whole story is an allegory for all the readers to show that change is necessary, but also possible. An allegory is quite a high-level literary term that you could use if you wanted. It's where the whole story acts as a metaphor for a moral idea. Like, okay, that's the end of the presentation. Sorry, there's one or two little typos there I can see in my spelling. I'll have to go back and change that later. Thank you very much. I hope that helped.